not to sit on the couch and keep fiddling with the cell phone, right? So how this happens, and at the end of the day, again, there is a lot of myths around this digital definition itself. Quick definition of digital learning is online learning, right? It's not true at all. Digital learning is not online learning. Online learning is a very small component of digital learning. Definition of digital is building digital interface to physical assets. At the end of the day, everything happens physically. There are physical interfaces. You need to connect those physical interfaces with digital signatures, right? Similarly, gamification as a learning tool should manifest at the end of the day to playing real games. And if you can't enable that enablement through technology, then you are just addressing the lowest hanging benefits of gamification. That means you don't have people available to coach, so use technology as a coach. That's what at best you are doing. Okay, so you get some fundamental 10-15% of learning through gamification, but translating into real games, converting to real results, converting them to real programmers, real pilots, is actually the challenge. So different companies do it different ways. So an intermediate step, okay, in gamification is actually to make learners enter into virtual games. So it's not just with the computer. You have another medium called, say, virtual reality. You have heard? How many of you have heard virtual reality? Virtual reality actually used to train people, where you actually have a stadium, you have players placed in different places, you can move around players at your will, not as per computer's will, and then play games. Virtual reality, in our company we use a simulator called virtual simulator for public speaking. We know that you can do a practice a speech when nobody's around, but when people are around, the leg shakes, right? How you can simulate actually an audience and then practice speeches. That is where you take gamification or simulation one level closer to reality, right? So how you create the gamification framework actually to kick the learners out of the real kind of digital and confined spaces to the real space is actually a big challenge. So different companies do in different ways, but it will be interesting to see when you mean gamification, what you are meaning to get people addicted to device or actually to inspire people to go and play.
Okay, great, thank you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Rajiv for a sneak preview because we want to know what other industries are doing, what is the overall trend, and who better than Rajiv to kind of highlight as to what is it that corporates are asking you to do, what is very much in demand, because obviously this is something that we want to take away.
Sure. I'll build on top of what you just mentioned. I think I found that very fascinating. When does digital end and when does reality begin, right? So the skills that you build in the digital world, does it actually spill over into real behaviors? So there's a nice quote that I read from an interview. This was from the ex-CIO of Starbucks. He was in his early 30s when he was part of Starbucks board, and somebody asked him, you're in your early 30s, you're sitting in a Fortune 500 board. How come you've learned all your leadership lessons so fast? How did that happen for you? Guess what he said? His response was, I play World of Warcraft, right, which is a massive online multiplayer game. I picked up all my leadership skills from that game. So this is an example, an inspiring one, where somebody getting immersed in a game acquires new skills that he never thought he had, and starts to gain confidence and starts demonstrating that in real world. Right? So that's a good example. So in terms of what companies are looking at, we just heard about VR just outside on the table.
I was wondering if he was not going to give us the secrets, so
no,
he's coming out.
So VR for onboarding.
We're waiting with bated breath now.
Yeah, so on the way out, you may want to check it out. It's fascinating. How do you onboard a new person using virtual reality? That's a showcase that we have just outside.
So are you saying that companies are asking for onboarding?
Yes, using gamification is a popular one. When Pokemon Go broke out, we got enormous number of phone calls saying, can we use Pokemon Go for onboarding? And we asked them, how much budget do you have, right? So aspirations are there, the needs are there, it's real. We've seen how Pokemon Go, talking about addiction, right? People got killed crossing the road doing Pokemon Go. There's a limit to all of this, but it has to be carefully designed. I think that's the takeaway here. Gamification is not a be-all and end-all. It's not going to cure all our problems. It has to be carefully designed. Ultimately, we are dealing with human beings. We all have our drives, desires. Let me spend a minute on this. We are all adults, adult motivation. There's a fabulous book called Drive by Daniel Pink. He talks about 3 factors, right, that we all get motivated or driven by. Anyone knows what the 3 things are? It's just a way to make sure that you're all awake. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Right? These are 3 things. If we are able to build all of these 3 in adults, you don't have to engage them, you don't have to micromanage them. Nothing of that sort is required, right? Give them autonomy, give them levels for mastery, and give them a purpose. They are on their own. So onboarding is a great use case. Assessment is a good one as well. So I think for the longest time, we've resorted to multiple choice questions, which tests for your knowledge of something, but doesn't quite capture your behavior in a given situation, what you might do, right? So simulations and gamification are getting used in assessments. And of course, gamification is synonymous with talent engagement. Those are some broad areas where gamification has been put to great use.
Great. So Hadlina, what do you see as challenges, now that everything is becoming virtual and, people are asking, do we really have budgets? What do you see as challenges in all of this? So we are seeing whether we have the money to engage you.
Yes, we do. And to the point that Rajiv just made, I realize the value of game dynamics, gamification so much that I've been pushing him to put one of his team members in our office. I'm saying our office is BKC, we'll give you a little bit space, just sit and work with our teams. You can do your own job, and that's okay. Because the value we will get is we will constantly be talking to him or his team member and learning these little secrets all the time. So it's a barter I'm trying to negotiate. So that's the value, and we're also working with them on some stuff. So in terms of challenge, Tanya, the biggest challenge I still continue to see is we've created enough conversations around digital, technology, gamification, simulations. There's enough conversations everyone is having. There's also a certain level of understanding which has now sunk in, or the value about the concept. But adoption continues to be a big uphill task. And I will give my own company example. We are a youngest bank in the country, IDFC Bank, just 1 year old. We said we want to be a different bank. We want to be a Hatke bank. That's our slogan, Hatke. Otherwise, every bank is different. So we wanted the same. So we wanted to be a Hatke bank. And we said digital is the way we want to go to market. Our account opening is done on a little iPad kind of a thingy. It just comes to you. You press a button through biometric. Your account is open. Anything else that we want to do is we wanted to do digitally. So we've created multiple assets to productize our stuff, to go to our customers, to do learning, training, all of that. But the usage is a challenge. And why is it a challenge? It's not that people don't know how to touch a computer or use their mobiles. It's just the challenge is here, the mindset.
I completely agree. When I first moved from JSW into Accenture, I used to call myself Alice in Wonderland. There was absolutely no team members. I was working from home, which I'd never done in my entire career. Everything was virtual. I was speaking, my children called, we would say that, my mom speaks to a computer. So that's the mom that I was. So things are changing. So what do you see as challenges in Lupin?
See, the biggest challenge that we see with regard to adoption to gamification is that we get carried away. I very much subscribe to the point that Damodar made. We get carried away with the game part of gamification, and the reality part of it goes long forgotten. So while we may have ticked the boxes around having completed that course or having done that particular exercise, what has been the learning out of it and how has that impacted my workspace is something that we have not really been focused on much. So that is one big challenge. We are too excited with the game part of it and not really a real benefit out of it. That is one. Number two challenge that we have been experiencing is contextualization of these games. When we are seeking partnership, understanding with our partners who are going to be suppliers of gamification tools and effort to us, a lot of time and effort goes into that. We end up giving a lot of brief again and again. We do.
Rajiv, are you listening?
No, we haven't spoken yet.
We do keep doing a lot of back and forth, and what we get at the end of the whole effort is an outcome, an output from an aggressive marketeer who's far too busy with many other client cases parallelly, even if they have given their dedicated resources and team. And of course, we are all dedicated because that's our job. We want to get that context setting, that customization happened on that solution through gamification. But when we receive the final outcome, what was to happen in 3 months ends up happening in over a period of 9 months, and still we are not satisfied. At satisfaction level, we have got less than 50%. Me, myself, am not satisfied with what turns out after all that engagement. So customization is the other big one that we've seen as challenge.
Great, thank you very much. If you noticed, I asked Damodar, what exactly do you do in TCS? He didn't speak about what happens in TCS at all. So, so he didn't want to give away the trade secrets. So what do you see as challenges, Damodar, when you're adopting this gamification?
I thought I was the one who shared maximum, isn't it? Huh? See, challenge in TCS should be challenge for everybody, let me tell you honestly. Now, let me put it into context, particularly adding one different dimension, Tanya. That is the role of this generation. Not me, myself minus 10 years might be, something like that. We are living in we are a generation which is transitioning between two completely diametrically opposite generation. Okay. If you look at my grandfather, he did his entire 100% of commuting just by walking, not even train or bus. My father did most of his commuting by bus or train, only once in flight. I did most of my commuting in flight. My children are going to do most of their commuting digitally.
Yeah, they're all going to go around their computers.
They're not even going to travel. Facebooking, WhatsApping, that's their commuting. Okay. So if I am the connecting thread between my parents and my kids. My kids don't speak any language other than English. My parents don't speak any other language other than Odia. So I am the one culturally, literally,
sandwich generation.
physically, I am doing the transition between two generations. In organizations, we are also going through same phase. Okay? There are SMEs, we call them subject matter experts, absolutely robust, don't want to embrace digital. Okay? They cannot think that they can train outside classrooms. Okay? And there are other generation who don't want to go to classrooms, don't want to learn in the normal working hours, virtual reality and pilot digitally. That's the generation we are talking about. I think the challenge in the organization, at least in my organization, is to connect these two generations. Okay? Entice the older generation to engage digitally, and also push this current generation to go and do something physically. I think that's where I see my challenge.
So we have manas of training experience here in the audience, and I think that we've tried to do some bit of justice, but the justice will really come if you are open and you ask us questions. So I would request the audience to take up any questions that you have. Yeah, go on.
Actually, this is more of a view. You may choose to take it or debate with me on it. I have a problem when people associate the word gamification with technology and with learning. I have been researching on this topic for 3 years now. And what I've found is that gamification is a concept. Game need not be on a mobile, on a computer, anything. For example, if I have to get fit, and I tell myself that for every kg I lose, I will eat a chocolate, or I will award myself with a chocolate. And that keeps